Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to bring like all.
Okay.
Like I said, I pull bust.
Holding here. We're holding. We did the top of Tzadik. We did Tzadik Gimel. We're holding Taner Rabbanon on Tzadik Gimel Amid Beis. Tzadik Gimel Amid Beis. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the course of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We're learning Lili Nishmas, Savigol Bas Baruch Binyamin, Sanos Ben Sian, and we're learning for Shlema for Avin David Ben Sarah and Gedat Yetzel Elias Ben. Okay. Okay, we were talking about in the Mishnah, if someone purchases grain because he wants to plant it, and he plants it and nothing grows. The grain wasn't good grain, so it was a waste of his money, of course, and a waste of his time. So very good. So Taner Rabbanan the Brisa starts like this: Ma'u Noisenlei. When he gets his money back, because the sale was not a good sale, so he goes to return it. Oh yeah, there's Jeff's cookie. So nice and what does the seller give to the buyer? So of course he has to give him his money back. So it says he only has to pay. You hear? Mordechai, right? He only has to pay, he only has to give the money of the grain. He doesn't have to give him the money of his efforts that he put into it and the time that he wasted and all of that. He doesn't have to pay for that. There's another opinion that says you have to pay besides for the wheat or the grain that the seed. Besides for that he's getting his money back, he also has to pay for all the efforts that he wasted because of him. Wasted his time. He had to hire workers. Man yesh aimrim, the Gemara says, who is this yesh aimrim that makes the seller pay for the other losses that came because of this? Who's the yesh aimrim? Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. It's the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay. Hey, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, where do you see Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? Where's that? Where are we going to find this? If you want to say it's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel in the Mishnah that we learned already, there was a Mishnah before that taught the following. The Tanan was taught, if someone sells fruits or produce to his friend, and he planted it, the seeds, and it doesn't grow. And even if it's flaxseed, flaxseed is mainly not eaten. It's mainly for planting. And so that's exactly why he bought it. And the halach is he doesn't get his money back. Because because the owner can say that thought maybe you were buying it to eat and not to plant. Okay, the following words are taken out, but let's read it anyway. But if it would be garden seeds, which means which are not eaten at all, then and then he would get his money back. Okay, let's go further because we're looking for Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The Seifa says Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says if it's seeds from a garden which are not eaten, is responsible to pay for them. What are garden seeds that aren't eaten? We said before it was like seeds from cabbage, or what did you say? Kaflatos? There was something else. No, it wasn't correct. Because pumpkin seeds are edible. We're talking about seeds that are not edible. Cabbage or you didn't tell me leeks. You told me two vegetables. It was leeks.
Oh yeah, leek seeds. Yeah, one from yesterday. Leek seeds.
Oh, really? So kaflet is leeks.
L-E.
Yeah. I don't remember that from the halachas of Rosh Hashanah that we're supposed to eat leeks. I remember, was the word kaflet there? Leeks? No, karti was leeks. Is kaflet the same as karti? All right, whatever. There's certain seeds that are, the vegetable is edible, but the seed is inedible. So the whole purpose of that seed is just for planting. So Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that those types of seeds, if you bought those seeds and it doesn't grow, then for sure you get your money back because you can't even claim that you bought it to eat. There's no claim like that. Okay, so we seem to be right now that we have our source that says, well, actually, we don't have a source yet. All we have is that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that certain seeds, chai b'chriyusan, the seller is responsible to replace them or to give the money back. Tanakama nami hachi kamar. 1 second. Everyone agrees that if the seeds that you bought are inedible and they're only for planting, that you get your money back. So the Gemara says, Tanana hachi kamar, tananami, tanakamanami, hachi kamar. Zera pishtan hudenechai b'charusin. It's only flax seeds that he's not responsible because they could theoretically be also eaten, or either for medicine or for other things. But if it would be seeds that are inedible, then then it would be responsible. Basically, what we just did was, if Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is arguing on the Tanakama that says that you're responsible, but the problem is the case that he's arguing with the Tanakama is this case that the Tanakama would agree with. It's just cabbage or leek seeds. Okay.
Whether the seller got the seeds for free, or seller had to pay for them.
Yeah, it's not giving me that information. It's not giving me that information. I'm not sure 100% why the seller is responsible for the seeds that he maybe doesn't know about. Maybe he bought seeds and it's Ramesh asked for a picture. Okay.
Sounds like you're learning the Daf really hard. There you go. Good job.
Can we fake it? We're getting photographed now. So okay. So yeah, David is asking that why is the seller responsible for the seeds? He doesn't know if they're going to grow, they're not going to grow. He gave the guy seeds, whatever. How they grow, okay. I'm not sure 100%. So what we're saying, it seems like there's no machlekes. It must be that there is a machlekes. There's a hidden machlekes here that wasn't mentioned in the Mishnah. And that machlekes is, do you have to pay for the extra expenses that the person had trying to plant these seeds, which don't end up growing? Those expenses, Mar Savar, the Tanakama would hold the Meizera, that you only have to pay for the seeds. Mar Savar, but Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds Afitza, you have to pay also for the expenses. And that would be what Rav Chisda was referring to when he says that which opinion says that you have to pay for the expenses. It must be Reb Shimon ben Gamliel in the Mishnah that's adding in that you have to pay, that the seller has to take responsibility for that. It must be he has to take responsibility for the expenses also. Tanakam would agree that he has to pay, but not for the expenses. Shimon ben Gamliel is adding in the expenses. Gemara says, Mimai, how do you know that that's the case? Still me'epcha. Maybe it's the opposite. Gemara says, Halikash. No, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Chaya Bachar Yusan means that you're only responsible for the seeds. And the Tanakama that doesn't say anything about it would say that you're responsible even for the expenses. Gemara says, no, that's not how it works. Whenever we have a first opinion, then we have a second opinion, the later opinion is always coming to add something. So he's coming to add that he should be paying not only for the seeds, but for the expenses as well that the person lost, because he had to go through all the efforts of trying to plant it and it doesn't end up growing. Okay.
Time also.
In time, all of that goes into this. Vidilma, the Gemara says, "Kula Reb Shimon ben Gamliel." We thought we had an answer. Said, okay, we found Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and he holds that you have to pay for the expenses. The Gemara says, maybe not. Maybe there's no machlekes here between the Tanakam and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And if there's no machlekes, then who's to say that he's even discussing expenses?
They said there's no machlekes. It was just added on.
Yeah, but
Why they research machlekes?
very good.
It's my question also.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Shalom's asking and Yitzi's asking that maybe there's no machlekes. We've said before it already that there's no machlekes. But before, when we said there's no machlekes, everyone agrees that he has to pay for seeds that are inedible, right? But then we said, but maybe there is a machlekes regarding something that wasn't clearly in the Mishnah, which is the expenses that the person had to go through, they had to spend in order to plant the seeds that didn't end up growing. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would say he has to pay for that, and Tanakama says he doesn't have to pay. That's why we have opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. He's coming to add in something. Now the Gemara is saying maybe there's no adding in anything. Maybe Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is the entire Mishnah, and it's going to read like this.
We know then because it's never
Very good. Moshe, you did a good job. Shalom says, whenever Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is quoted in the Mishnah, the halacha is always like him, except for 3 times. Very good.
Whenever Rabbi Shimon quoted in the Gemara's thousands.
Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, not Reb Shimon.
Yitzi second.
Rabbi Smith.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was standing in the middle of 2 electricians, and they were arguing about how many
It's a joke.
hours.
Jokes that started.
I'm sorry?
I've heard jokes that started.
They were arguing, not arguing, whatever, they were discussing how many hours it would take to do a certain job. And one of them said, well, what about going to Home Depot, picking up the stuff? It's another 45 minutes.
Right, all of that's what we're referring to. Yeah, all of that goes into the calculation, time. The Gemara now says, this is very odd for the Gemara to do this. It's very rare that we see this. Usually when the Gemara says, Chesuri mechser v'achiktani, usually it's answering a question. Usually we have a problem, and in order to answer the problem, the Gemara says the Mishnah is missing words, and if we adjust it a little bit, we'll fix it up. Over here, what the Gemara is doing is saying, maybe we can ask a question. Well, let's add some words into the Mishnah, and then we can ask a question based on that. It's like v'yesh lahakshes bedaychek. Yes, v'yesh lataretz bedaychek is usually, we can squeeze in an answer. But now it's saying, well, maybe we could squeeze in a question. The Rashbam actually takes the words out. He wants to read it a little different. But he does start off saying that it's not really such an issue. They must have a note on this explaining to answer a question.
No, like why is this? Usually they try to find answers.
Yeah, so the Rashbam mentions that since the Mishnah didn't mention anything about that, so that's the real problem. We were adding into the Mishnah something that was totally not there, and saying that it's a machlekes, but the machlekes isn't even mentioned. Now we're saying no, maybe not. Maybe we're supposed to read it like this. If someone sells produce to his friend, Vizaran, and the purchaser, he plants them, but it doesn't grow. And even if it's flaxseed, he's not responsible. The seller is not responsible to replace them. He can claim that I sold it to you to eat. But if it would be seeds that are not edible, then he would be responsible. That's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, because Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds it's only Shimon ben Gamliel holds that it's only flax seeds that he's not responsible because they're edible, not like very edible, but at least for medicine they're edible. But seeds that are totally inedible, then you would be the seller would be responsible to replace them, because obviously he bought them to plant. The Gemara says, Elah Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Rather, if it's not the Mishnah, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, if it's not our Mishnah, it must be another Mishnah that has Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. What we're looking for here is a Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that says that if a person buys something that doesn't end up working, that the plants seeds that doesn't end up growing, that the seller has to pay him not only for the seeds but also for the time and effort and expenses that he went through for that all of this, those damages. So the Tanya, we have another Rav Shimon ben Gamliel that goes like this. 1 second. Okay. Son in the Bryce, Meilachitim Litchain, Leilasasan, is it Litchain or Litachin? Litchain.
Bitcoin.
He takes wheat to grind, but apparently he's not the one that's grinding it. Someone else is going to do it. But the person that's doing it didn't moisten the wheat enough, so when it grinds, it doesn't grind well. And it becomes bran or very like a coarse ground, or even worse than that. Subin is one level. Morson, I think, is even worse. It's like the bran. He takes flour to the baker to bake bread, and he baked the bread, and it comes out crumbling bread.
In default with
This would be comparable to like the seeds not working, but right now we're saying that with other examples of
but that's
taking
gonna be a
it to
follow-up.
yeah.
Plant the seeds. Seeds aren't very healthy. Out. Eat a little.
Right. Right. You'll see how it's going to connect in a second. Right. You'll see in a second. Yeah, like the dyer, like the case with the dyer. The hemalatabach. You take an animal to the butcher, benivla, and when he shechs it, he messed it up. He messed up the shlita. Chayev and so he has to pay because he is paid like a paid watchman, which means his responsibility level goes up a little bit, and he's responsible to make sure that it was done properly, not with negligence. Well, negligence even a shem wouldn't be, but it's, yeah, he has more responsibility. Here we have the Shimon ben Gamliel that we're looking for. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says that because this guy was expecting to get flour, was expecting to get bread, and it turns out that he doesn't get that. He had invited guests, and now he has embarrassment. The guests show up, and there's nothing there to eat.
All brand cereal.
Right.
Yes.
So the baker or the grinder is going to have to pay him his embarrassment and the embarrassment of his guests. You see, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that you have to pay for the expenses. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, there was a custom in Yerushalayim. If someone gives a meal to his friend and he messes it up, what does it mean he messes it up? How do they explain that there? He spoils it. He sells him a ruined field. I guess the caterer messed up. I guess that was it. So he has to pay for the embarrassment. Now the Gemara throws in one other case that there was a custom in Yerushalayim. Mapa prusa gabe Pesach calls much mapa prusa archen nechnasim. Nistalka mapa ein archen nechnasim. If the mat is out in front of the door, then that means that guests are welcome. When they take away the mat, it means that those guests are not welcome. So they had a way to know like which houses you were taking guests in, you know. So they would put a doormat outside for people to know that they're welcome. Maybe it says on the door, on the mat, maybe it says welcome. You know those mats that say welcome? But try to walk into someone's house. Try to walk into someone's house because the mat says welcome.
Should have the sign that says if there's no mat.
Right.
Yeah, but if it has well, anyone.
Right.
Here it says a cloth spread over the doorway.
Oh, it was over the doorway. That means the door was opened, but there was a cloth there?
No, it means that the caterer was successful. You know, and it's good food. The caterer messed up.
Uh-huh.
You don't have a mat. You don't have the.
So mappa means it doesn't mean a mat. Mappa means a
cloth.
a cloth.
spread.
Okay.
Question,
A mappa is normally like a tablecloth. Yeah.
First, what does it mean to say minhag gadol rather than just haya minhag? What's
That's an interesting observation. The only thing I'm seeing here is that Rabbi Shaya pick on the side in the Ein Mishpat, he throws in. You see, do you have a base that's in brackets?
yes.
So the bracketed numbers, the bracket in the Ein Mishpat is from Rabbi Shaya Pick, Rabbi Shaya Berlin, and he sends us to the Torah Rechaim Siman Kuf Ayin, which may have something to with having guests or something. They make both this in there. That's the only reference I see to.
And so the government, I'm sorry, the Gemara doesn't really do anything with that
Right.
comment, does it?
No. It's just it's coming in because we said mina gadol hayu b'Yerushalayim that you have to pay for the embarrassment. It's another mina gadol. While we're at it, let's tell you another one. Okay, we have a new Gemara here. Very interesting Gemara. It's not complicated, but it's an interesting thing that you. Okay, someone sells produce to his friend. You have to accept that there's going to be inside the produce. There's going to be some dirt there. So because it's getting either by weight or by volume, however it's being sold, you have to accept that dirt together with it. How much? 1/24 of what you purchased is going to be dirt. Yeah. When they spray the vegetables on the, they have these things that spray it, they keep it fresh. Are they doing that so the weight goes up? Is that what they're doing? No, in the stores, they have like this sprayer thing that comes. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're doing it to keep it fresh, but maybe they also if they wouldn't do that.
I don't know. That first might be questionable because I've seen like sometimes that water like helps it like get ruined.
Oh, it gets ruined if it sits in it. That could be. Okay. I'm sure there's tricks like this that they have. There's certain parts they sell that the tomatoes on the vine. Maybe the weight changes because you have those things that no one eats.
Like all these.
The radish, right?
Some people pick up their cardboards and then they take it like recycling on old trade fairs. Like what in the cardboard?
Oh, because they give it to you for by weight.
By weight.
Oh.
Cardboard recycling business.
I was thinking of like a pineapple, like that whole stem.
Right. Right, on the part of the pineapple, but that you can't take off. I think it would go bad if you would take it off, probably. So, Ta'anim, let's say you get figs. Figs is what we say Shachianu on Rosh Hashanah. The figs, that's why we've been waiting the whole summer. The figs are in the market, but we wait for Rosh Hashanah. Say the Shachianu. Second day Rosh Hashanah, we say Shachianu on the figs. Some people don't eat the pomegranate the first night, even though that's one of the signs. They just put it on the table and they wait for the second night. Some people do that. It says shachiano, but could be it's not you've had it. So what about figs? Makabel of estimate 10 out of 100, which means 1 out of 10, is going to be. You have to accept that it may have worms in it. Martif shel yayin, if you buy a wine cellar. Makabel of eser kaises lamei, you have to get 10 out of 100, which means 1 out of 10 is going to be has gone bad. You have to accept that. Yeah, it went sour. Kankanim b'sharon, if you're buying barrels in Sharon, that's like a place, and you would buy these jugs or something. Makabel of eser pitases lamei, you have to accept that 10 out of 100 are not going to be the strong quality. They're going to be like an inferior quality. Tani Rav Katina. Rav Katina taught Reva Kitnias Lasa. So what we were understanding from the Mishnah was that you're going to get 1/24 is going to be dirt in grain. Rav Katina says no, 1/24 not dirt. It's going to be legumes. It's going to be beans. It's going to be another species. It's going to be in there. You have to accept that it's not going to be exactly what you ordered. The Gemara says, but you can't expect that there's going to be dirt in there, and the sales are going. If there's dirt in there, it's going to invalidate the sale. Rabba Barchia Kitesva Mishmei de Rabba. Rabba Barchia Kitesva says the name of Rabba. Boyer Tzrar Migraine Shel Chavera is a really interesting halacha. If someone goes to someone's granary and he separates the dirt, the pebbles, from the grain, and he cleans it out, he owes him that value in wheat. Since the person could have sold the dirt together with the wheat, when he cleaned it out, you're not allowed to throw it back in. When he cleaned it out, he basically made him lose that income that he could have sold that together with the wheat. He calls them a loss.
So anything that's sold, the 1/24th is factored in?
Factored in. So when he cleans it out, you're not allowed to throw it back in. Okay, so the problem is over here that you're telling me that you don't accept any dirt, but it's clearly that you accept dirt when you're buying it, because someone that takes it out has to even pay the owner for his loss. So the Gemara says, "Kitnius Reva." When it comes to what Rav Katina was saying, it's a quarter. It's of a kav per sa, which is 1/24th. That's for legumes that are in there.
Like
And afreiris,
pistachios.
the beans. Oh yeah, if you dish. Yeah, okay, that's a good example. Afreiris, but if it's going to be dirt, then it's pachis mirayva. Then it would be less than that amount. You don't accept that amount of 1/24th. It's going to be less than that. By the way, Reb Naftali, this Rashbam on the top, he has the brackets in there, and in that brackets he tries to explain the difference between grama and garmi, because the person that takes the pebbles out of the wheat is causing a loss, but it's an indirect loss. It's not damaging, but it's indirect loss. He says that he's chayiv. He says he's chayiv because of garmi. He says, so what's the case of grama, an indirect loss, indirect damage where you're exempt? He says that's when you don't do it directly. Here you're doing it directly, but it's not recognizable, so we call that garmi.
Yeah, it's interesting because I thought that was where it was going on the previous daf that we just did, where he was paying for embarrassment because something didn't work or something like that.
Yeah, that was like what they call that, like collateral type.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the reasons why.
He's telling me good. Hillel's telling me from one of the notes that one of the reasons why Ashkenazim don't use kitnias on Pesach is because we're learning here that the beans grow together with the wheat. This was
and because we don't want to just sleep this whole month.
Yeah, I hear you.
What's the Shabbos?
Okay. So the Gemara says when it comes to the dirt, we don't accept if it would be 1 out of 24. But we have a brisa that says if someone sells produce to his friend, if it's wheat, we accept a quarter kav, which is 1 out of 24 per sa. Let me just explain that. A kav is 24 eggs. Quarter kav would be 6 eggs. A sa is 144 eggs. So 6 into 144 and would be 24, right? 24. Yeah, 6 times 24 would be 144. So a reva kav is 1/24th per sa. They could have told it to me shorter. You could have told me 1 out of a kav, 1 egg out of a kav, but we're doing those big measurements here. So it's a quarter kav out of a sa. It's the same, 1/24th. But here we're saying in this brisa, we're saying that he's accepting on himself a quarter kav of legumes. So if it's barley, mekabel avreva, nishavis lasa. What's nishavis? How do they translate that? In the barley? What is it? Straw. That's good. chaff. Okay. Adoshim, if it's lentils, the Kabbalah of Reva first lisa. And the lentils, then he has to accept the dirt. Now, what we're understanding over here is that the lentils, they're pulled out from the ground instead of cut. The wheat is cut, so you don't get the dirt, but the lentils are yanked out of the ground. So you're going to end up with the lentils, you're going to end up with more dirt than you're going to have by the wheat. So what we're saying is what you're expecting, because what would be common. My love, who had in Lachitin L'Sayrim. If there would be dirt in the wheat, it would be the same thing. It's just that's not so common. So we said what we thought would be common, but we think should be the same thing. That there should be, if there's 1/24 of dirt in the wheat, the same halacha should apply. The Gemara says no. Shani adashin demeka akrilu. Since by the legumes, the way you harvest them is you pull them out of the ground, so therefore it's more common. So that's why he's going to be accepted. That would come out that it's only by the legumes that you accept the dirt, but not by the wheat. Then we should say that by wheat we don't accept any dirt in the sale. Where it says really by wheat we also accept if there's dirt in it. And so why do we mention it only by the legumes? By the lentils, it's necessary the salkadait chamina, because you could have thought given the maka akrilu yosemi rebenamila kabel. I could have thought that you have to accept a lot of dirt because it's so common, even more than 1/24. Mashmalan, it comes to teach us that you only accept 1/24. Okay, comes out over here that you have to accept 1/24 of.
I know more.
And 1/24 of dirt as well in the wheat. That's where we're holding. Yeah. Yeah. Talk to George Washington Carver. Yeah. He taught the farmers how to get the nitrogen back into the soil. It's depleted. To alternate the.
How come he's not into more of it?
He's only in
2,000
the.
years before.
Doing history books.
It's in the.
The whole thing.
He gets the credit.
Gets the credit.
Go to Georgia, he's all over the place.
They don't do that. They don't plant it sequential. Like one year it's all wheat, and the next year it's soybeans. It's rotated. It's all done by machine now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they have machines that check all that stuff. And if you, hey, be quiet. And then
You mean they put the grain through
a sifter.
a sifter?
Okay, and then when you come to buy it, if the guy inspects it and he says, "Oh, there's a lot of impurities in there," he rejects the whole thing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh, you just say.
Okay. Let's take a look at this. The Gemara goes on. It's, interesting Gemara here. Amar Rav Huna. Huna says in Bala Nafes Menafes Kula. If he sifts it, if the purchaser, the buyer, sifts it because he says, I don't want any dirt, so then he doesn't just sift it down to below that level, he sifts the whole thing.
We discussed before like two different prices. One is clean and
What was that?
another time. Oh, these things when they're clean and they're not clean.
They had different prices. Yeah, it could be there would be different prices. So what's happening over here? What's happening over here is that the seller thinks that there's more dirt in here than what's acceptable. So he comes to sift it. And when he sifts it, so he sifts out all the dirt. Now the seller, this is the purchaser that's doing the sifting. The seller says, 1 second, you can't sift out all the dirt. You can only sift it down below the level of what's acceptable. So get it down right below that, and then you have to accept 1/24. The purchaser is saying that it's above the level of that's acceptable. There's too much dirt here. the seller saying, okay, so take out only the part that's extra. But the Rav Huna is telling me that no, once you start taking it out, the extra part, then we are allowed to take out everything. And the seller can't tell the purchaser, 1 second, you've accepted on yourself the 124. That you've accepted. No, you can't say that. So therefore, he's going to end up getting perfectly clean because he put in too much. Because he was greedy, because he put in too much dirt. He's going to end up because the seller was greedy. He's going to end up getting no dirt. Okay, so now very interesting. Amrila, there are those that say that this din of Rav Huna, where the seller loses out and you have to clean out, he cleans out all the dirt and he takes it for the same price. Dina va'amrila knasa. Some say that that's the halacha, and some say that that's a penalty. So the penalty is easy to understand because you had too much. Now we fine you and now you lose it all. Now you can't have any dirt. Some say that it's Dina. Now the way Dina would work, that it's not a penalty. Dina works like this. He says that the seller tells to the buyer, he says, here's what I got. If you want to clean it out, go ahead and clean it out. If you don't want to clean it out, then take it as is. So the buyer says, I don't want to go through the effort. There's only 1/24th in here that's going to be the dirt. I don't have the time to do that. I'm not going to go through. I'm just going to take the whole thing. So, but if he says, I do have the time to do it, so the seller agreed. So now that the buyer thinks that there's too much in there and he started doing it, so he finishes it off. The seller agreed to that. He just wouldn't want to do it if there's just a drop of dirt. But that's actually the halacha. It's not a penalty to the seller for having too much in there. It's part of the agreement. If you wanted to do it, do it. You didn't think it was worth it, so you never did it. But now you're doing it, so now you do it. The other way is that no, really, he's supposed to accept. The buyer's supposed to accept the dirt, and the reason why now he doesn't have to accept it is because the guy tried to fool him by putting in too much dirt. So that we give you a penalty, and now you don't accept anything. There's two opinions on what Rav Huna means. Yeah, there's two opinions what Rav Huna means that we now remove that the buyer can remove all the dirt. Is it a penalty or is it because that's the halacha? No, we're not talking about where he was adding intentionally, but we think because there's too much that maybe he added it intentionally. You follow? That's why we're putting a penalty because he added too much, because we think he actually added it. That's why we're giving him a penalty.
You find out that there's no impurities in it. So then what happens?
No, so
There's too much impurity, then he gets compensated.
there's too much impurity.
You find out he is cheating you. He
Yeah,
added
so
all.
then we take out all the impurities and you get it for the price without impurities, the same price without any impurities. So the buyer gains.
Buyer gains.
Yeah. Yeah.
This application is especially true of like minerals and stuff like that, because oftentimes the dirt and minerals are so high that it really can raise the weight of what it is. That's like it. Like any kind of mineral. 10% just starts.
I don't know that business well.
I don't know.
There's people buying like that minerals and I'm sure that
Well, they melt
in
it
the
down to
metals,
make,
the people that are
ingots.
doing.
Or it's
They melt it
the
down.
idea here, because you're buying in bulk, that the seller is not like taking such care of washing.
Could be. It could be because of the bulk. It could be.
The thing with the wine, they mentioned that they went to the wine.
It was a wholesaler.
Yeah.
It says it was a wholesaler.
Plus,
It was in-
brachas.
You see this whole example, Florida all around, whenever there's a mining operation like phosphate, it's huge on the west quiet stuff. There's these giant sifters, the long machines. What they're doing is shaking it like this so the small particles will fall in and the big ones come down. Because you want only big ones. It's all mixed up. So when you buy pebbles in Home Depot, it's all pebbles. But it's gone through 5 sifters to make sure the big pebbles, little. It's out of this Gomorrah.
They used to sell these pushkas that you would put a coin in. and it would go and around, and it would fall into the hole that for that coin, like the quarter. I haven't seen them in a long time.
Those are fun.
Yeah, they were fun actually. Because of the size, it would know where to. Okay. So where are we holding? The Gemara is going to explain. Amri Ladina, the one that says that's actually the Allah Hamandi of Zuzi, the one that gives money up here, Shapiri of. He really wants to buy just perfectly produce, not without any dirt in it. Right. The only thing is, he's given the opportunity to clean it out, but he doesn't want to bother to do that. But if it's more than a 1 in 24th, then he will bother himself to clean it out. Even the tarach, once he's bothering himself to do it, so once you put it all in through the sifter, so tarach bekula, it's easy just to finish it off. The one that says that it's a penalty, it's common for it there to be just 1/24th, but more than 1/24th, it's not common. The Yehud it must be that he added it in. Even the Arav Kansura Abanim Bekulu, it must be that he added in, so that we're going to give him a penalty on all of it. Okay, so there's a simon here, mnemonic for the next case is Meisvei. The Gemara has a question. This is a question on the one that says Dina, and the one that says that it's the halacha. Kolsa sheish b'reivim min acher yimayet. This is talking about kalayim, that if there's a grain that was planted before you plant the grain, you have to make sure that there's no other species in there, otherwise it's going to turn into kalayim. What's the measurement? It says if there's a quarter in the saw, which means 1/24th, then you have to take the grain out. You have to take the other species out, probably the legumes or something. Savrua, we understood. The roiva de kalayim, the yoiser mi roiva de hacha. You're allowed to have 1/24th, a roiva of dirt in the produce when you sell it. You're not allowed to have a roiva of other species in the produce when you're planting it. That's too much. That's considered kalayim. So what we're doing over here is that an exact roiva, exact 1/24th, by the dirt in the produce, is going to be comparable to less than a roiva in kalayim. Exactly less than a roiva is acceptable. Exactly a full roiva is acceptable over here. So the sale, by a sale, it's going to be exactly a roiva, and by kalayim, it's going to be exactly less than a roiva, right under the roiva. That's what we're comparing. And we say Uktani Yamayat, and it says that you don't take everything out, you just take some of it out. You just get it a drop lower. Which means that you can plant it because it's so small. I guess it's considered that it's bottle. Which means that this is not the halacha of when you start, it's supposed to be clean and this and that. It must be just a penalty. It's a kasha on the one that says that this is the halacha is you have to finish it off. Once you start, you finish it off. Seems like you don't finish it off. The Gemara says like Reiva de kalayim ki reiva de hachadami. Actually, it's exactly the same. And exactly a quarter kav, 1/24th is exactly the same by both. So why do you have to take off anything? It says mishum chumra de kalayim. No, really, you don't have to do anything here. It's because it's a reiva, it's perfectly acceptable. But because kalayim is a rule in the Torah, so we make it a little bit less. It's an extra chumra over there. It says if that's the case, aim a seifa. The seifa says Rav Yossi Emer Yavar. Rav Yossi says they have to clean the whole thing out. Okay, now according to Rav Yossi, we're going the other way now. We're saying that you have to clean the whole thing out. It must be because that's the halacha. If we say that a raiva is like more than a raiva, then we would have a machlekes like this. Tanakam server like kansinan etera to isura. Rav Yossi server kansinan. Rav Yossi says that Rabbi Yossi says that you have that you take it all out because just like Rav Huna says that once you start cleaning it out, you clean the rest out. And the Tanakama that says that you don't have to, it's because we don't make a knas on what's permissible. Because less than that would be permissible. Because if there's extra, Rabbi Yossi says we do a knas on everything. And if there's not extra, then if there's, and the Tanakama holds that if there's extra, we just do a knas on what's extra. So it's but if it's exactly the amount that's acceptable, then why should you have to clean out the whole thing? It's acceptable. It says there's a different reason over here. It doesn't have to do with comparing it to a sale. It has to do with that when you leave a little bit in, when you started to clean it out, it looks like you're actually accepting the kalayim and you're supporting that growth. So once you start cleaning it out, you have to do the rest. That's Rabbi Yosef's opinion. And the Tanakama held that no, because that was an acceptable amount, we can leave that as is. Let's leave it over here.
Wow.
Oh, like always.
Yeah.